Today we're going to discuss about how to reclaim your power after loving an avoidant. I know after breaking up with an avoidant, we're often full of confusion, of pain, of self-doubt. In this video, I want to spend 10 minutes with you discussing practical steps on how you can reclaim that power, because you don't have to stay stuck. The point of this video is to give you practical steps, some tips for you to move forward. Because I know after a breakup, there's a lot of things happening. We feel that we're not worthy of love. We feel we never find the same relationship. We're not sure whether we should get back with our partner because they are dismissive avoidant and they can't meet our needs. We'll explain everything in this video. So the first element is to rebuild your sense of worth. When someone rejects you, breaks up with you, but it feels like rejection, that automatically affects our self-worth. And when you have an anxious attachment style, studies have shown there's like a correlation between the sense of worth or self-esteem, usually lower when you have an anxious attachment style, because you usually attach your value to the other, to the partner you're dating or the primary attachment figure. So as kids, you would get that validation from your parents. You wanted them to tell you, I'm proud of you. And in the context of relationship, when the most important person in your life rejects you, you feel it's because I'm not good enough. You feel it's because of you. So the first element, and I will put the link of this study of Dr. Neff, is to focus on self-compassion and self-care. So self-compassion is about treating yourself, treating your mental health, treating the little voices in your head in a way to replace the negative element and replace the negative elements by the positive ones. So what we do what I do with my clients is usually around negative self-talk and how we can reframe those talks, and around self-care. Basically, doing things you like, doing things you love. Hobbies, activities, seeing friends, massage. You pick what you like doing. Treating yourself. Remember that you're the most important person in your life. And so treat that person as such. Okay? Buy yourself some stuff. Invest in yourself. Whether it's about learning, whether it's therapy, you have to invest in this person because this is the most important person in your life. And remember that you deserve to be in a relationship with someone who would invest equally. So it's the shift from rejection to hold on. Maybe we are not equal. Maybe I over-invested in the relationship. And the other reason it's so hard is because we feel I invested in this relationship. I invested so much. And something called sunk cost fallacies, when we invest into something, this investment could be a house, could be a relationship, could be whatever, feels you're more sort of impacted by the loss of that thing. And so the more you invest into something, the harder it is to let go. And obviously in the context of a relationship, you potentially invested a lot and maybe more than them, right? And the problem is that you feel like it's unfair, right? I did everything right. I was true to themselves. I told them what I wanted. I told them the things I didn't want. I was always super caring. I was always super understanding, and they treat me like this. It's unfair. And it makes it even harder to deal with the breakup because of that reason. And so this aspect of this behavior of breaking up suddenly, out of nowhere, with no explanations, again, is reinforcing this idea of like, after what I've done for you. And sometimes a lot of my clients, when they call me, they have lots of questions about their partners, their ex's psychology, why they made such a decision, etc., etc. And it's normal to have those questions. But again, these are not, you won't get that closure. You won't be able to heal or move forward by asking yourself or answering those questions. These are the wrong questions to ask. The question is really about what do you want? And we'll discuss in a second what you need to do, but it's really about yourself rather than thinking, why, or regretting the actions that you've made. If you invested a lot in the relationship, good for you. You should be proud of this and not regret. Of course, you're in pain because you're disappointed, because you feel it's unfair, because you didn't see it coming. But I want you to look back at this story and feel I've done what's right. I was true to myself. I treated the relationship with kindness, fairness, and I don't regret anything. And that's also very important as well in the context if you want to get back with them. Because sometimes that's the best option, is to get back together and have a stronger relationship. But they need to change. So perhaps, first of all, my suggestion is to assume that they won't change. They won't change unless they do major self-work. Things that I've done personally. So it's doable. It's not a question of avoidant will always be avoidant or can't be in healthy relationship, but they have to do some kind of work. When you have this hope, and you keep this hope of, I know they love me, but they have insecurities, they have trauma, etc. What you're doing is you're maintaining that pain several weeks. And it's something you should avoid by, okay, hold on. This is the situation. This is how he treated me. This is how she treated me. This is what they said. This is factual. It's not about yes, but potentially, no. So the question is, maybe the first and most important question is, what are you doing? Because you're watching this video, you're trying to figure out how you can be more secure, how you can be happy in relationship, how to have successful relationships. What about them? And in a lot of cases, breakup can be a trigger to discover about our insecurities. That was the case for me. It's okay, maybe there's something wrong. Maybe there's something I need to explore because I feel that I can't have deep emotional connection with people. I have to keep things superficial, or I feel overwhelmed and smothered when I'm in a relationship or when people say nice things to me, especially my partner. So there's something to explore. But if they don't do that work and you get back together, well, you're going to end up the same situation. They're going to break up because they feel fear of commitment, overwhelmed, etc. And so what you have to start reflecting on is this idea of one-sided investment. And it's important after the breakup to go no contact for a few weeks to stop this, okay, I'm trying to get their attention, I'm trying to get a sign, I'm trying to get answers. Let go for a few weeks. Because by doing this constant communication of on and off, you won't get anywhere with your ex, because maybe you've tried and it doesn't work, so because it's not working. And that will actually make you experience the post-breakup. You'll be more depressed, you'll be more anxious. So it's a bad decision to stay in touch with your ex if they're avoidant right after a breakup. At some stage you need to get in touch if you want to reconcile, if you want to figure out what could happen next, but at the beginning it's very important. And so when you go no contact, it's important to have this relationship inventory. So it's something that I do with my clients, like figuring out analytically, if it's an English word, the dynamic of the relationship, the different drivers. And sometimes we don't realize that it was a one-sided relationship. And so it's important to reflect and analyze those things. The point is that you could get back together, but it's only if the relationship feels like there's a mutual effort. And so one way to regain a bit of confidence and feel better is to leverage friendship, where you know it's mutual, where you know those people are here to help you, they're in your team. That's the first thing you have to do if you want to break this one-sided investment dynamic. So the focusing on mutual relationships, again, it's important to assess with regard to your ex, their level of investment. Them being in love with you, that's not a form of investment. I'm going to repeat this because it's very important. I hear that very often. It's not because they love you that they can have a healthy relationship with you. That's not enough. Their feelings are not a reason for you to get back together. That's not enough. It's important to assess as you try to reconcile, maybe you're back in touch with them, whether they are willing to open, whether you see signs of vulnerability. signs of regret. And when you do, you have to assess whether they respect your boundaries and also show genuine empathy, which is sometimes very hard because when you have an anxious attachment style, you're very sensitive. And so when you communicate with an avoidant who usually have a really hard time to open up, to understand about their emotions, to discuss about those emotions, it's kind of, you don't have the same level of intensity. So it's really important to assess based on the history, not based on your baseline, because your baseline will be, you'll be expecting so much more from them. So that's something you have to assess. It's something that you can also assess. I put together an assessment. Have a look in the description to assess those things, whether there's potential in the relationship, which is not enough, and whether there's also an element of change from their side. If you don't have those two things, it's not going to work out. So it's assessing the motivation, as I said, and assessing if it's driven by fear. Your motivation is driven by fear. Because sometimes after a breakup, it's a little bit like catching a falling knife. We're doing it without thinking, and then you just need a couple of weeks, a couple of reflection, maybe speaking with therapy, speaking with your friends, reflecting, doing the relationship inventory, figuring out like, hold on, what am I trying to save? Is it really healthy for me? And assessing also as a dynamic process what's going on their part. What you have to do, and it's not the best way, it's the only way to heal, to move forward, is to establish a secure base. Because you want to create the right environment for you and the right environment for them. Because if there's a chance of you getting back together, it starts by creating that secure base. It has to start from you. And then by creating that secure base, you can assess. Because potentially, and that's the case for a lot of my clients, the breakup was just the outcome of an anxious avoidant trap dynamic. And you didn't know about attachment style. They didn't know about attachment style. And you felt rejected. You felt that they didn't care, where they just needed a bit of space. And so once you have those insights, maybe you can reconcile and create that secure base where you both respect each other's boundaries and you understand each other's triggers. And in most of the case, if you just create that secure base, it's very easy to get back together. When you do this, that's very important, is to focus on the progress and not the end goal. Right now, you probably have a clear idea, I want them back. But check whether it's a good idea first. But maybe, okay, I want to give it a try. The problem is, there will be a phase of on and off because they're going to be scared. They're not sure about getting back together, they don't want to hurt you. And so they would give you a little bit of investment, but not too much. The point is to assess whether it's progressing or whether it's like on and off, but you don't see any progress. And set yourself, so focusing on the progress more than the end goal. And the second element is to set yourself a deadline. Because it's on and off. If you don't see any progress, don't assume, it's just a question of me waiting more months, more years, and they'll figure out and they'll change. No. Because over time, if you create a dynamic that works for them, but you don't see any investment from their part to develop any further this relationship, that means they are happy with this dynamic and they won't make any changes. And if it's not the right dynamic for you, the right relationship for you, you have to let go. And it's very important. And the deadline could be 3 months, could be 6 months. I wouldn't go over a year because the process of figuring out whether there's some form of progress on the end should take a couple of months. Usually when I work with my clients on WhatsApp, that's what we create that secure base. So we work, first there's an element of reflection and relationship inventory as we discussed. And then it's really about, okay, how can we communicate more effectively? How can we start of engaging with them, seeing them, etc. And if we don't see any progress in a month or two, then it's not working. Then they're not where we want them to be. And then you have to draw your own conclusions whether it makes sense to continue or not. So when should you move on? Because sometimes, as I said, that's the best decision to move on. You know, first of all, that you've changed the dynamic. Because sometimes we're anxious, we are falling into old patterns of being triggered, of being anxious, of being clingy. And so we feel, oh yeah, but haven't really changed the dynamic. So first of all, you change the dynamic, create that secure base. But also assess whether, despite having done that, they still behave the same way. You're still in this on and off. They are still very scared of commitment. If that's the case, yes, you should move on, because they are not the right partner for you. And you can only move on if you have that secure base, because that will help you to have to be emotionally stronger, to have that effective communication and healthy boundaries. So effective communication, if you're completely triggered, if anytime you don't hear from them, anytime they ask for space, you get triggered, automatically the communication will be different. They'll feel you're stressed. They'll feel you're going to overwhelm them. And a healthy boundaries is just like the rules, right? Okay, what do I want? What the things that I don't want? And sometimes after a breakup, those boundaries are not clear. So it's very important to set those clear boundaries. Now, the things to avoid, final word on this, is to focus on first of all, to focus on the potential of the relationship. That's probably the first thing you need to avoid right now. Thinking like, yes, but when we were together, the first 6 months were amazing. We had something special. She treated me this way. And I know it was mutual, right? I'm not dreaming, I'm not crazy. I know it was mutual. And so I know if we can put this and sort of copy paste it in the future, that would work. The thing is, for some reason, probably because of their attachment style, they can't sustain that type of effort because it feels like an effort to them. And so rather than focusing on the potential of the highs of the relationship, also analyze the lows of the relationship. Another thing you need to avoid, to stay stuck because they love you. And as I said before, and I repeat it and I will repeat it again, it's not because they love you that they're right partners. Another element, sometimes people get obsessed about their responsibility. It was my fault. I was too clingy. I was too emotional. I didn't know they were avoidant. If only okay, fair enough. You didn't know maybe. And maybe you could have done things better, but they're equally responsible for being triggered and not being able to develop that secure base and soothe you and sort of try to understand your world, trying to listen to what you said throughout that relationship. And the last is to avoid the all or nothing mindset, which is like, I have to get back with them. That's the only option. That's the only way I'll be happy. That's the only partner that will make me happy. That's the only person who will share those things with me. Sometimes they could be amazing people. And I'm sure your partner is an amazing person. But they're just not partner material. And what's best for you would be to stay in touch with them every now and then, but reconsider that they won't give you what you need. It's as simple as that. They can't. They should. If they wanted, they could, but they don't. And it's accepting, like, regardless of how amazing this person is, he or she is not partner material. And I shouldn't consider building a relationship, bringing them to a place of intimacy, if they simply don't know how to do it and they don't want to go there. If you have any question, let me know. There's also a reminder of this assessment if you want to figure out. It's specifically designed for people who dated avoidant. Have a look. Any question, let me know. If you liked it, don't forget to click on like. That does help me a lot. And I'll see you next time. Take care.